Welcome to Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, back again with another episode for y'all. Most of the things in prison we deal with, we just don't want our family members to know. We just don't tell them for different reasons, but mainly because we don't want you to know how bad some of the situations that we have to deal with are. And it's this guy that I know named Billy. His story is one of those stories that I think is worth telling because a lot of family members don't know that in some way they are aiding in the abuse that their loved ones are dealing with. Uh, the name of this episode is She Didn't Know That She Was Paying Her Brother's Abuser. Billy came into the system right when he turned 18 years old. He's in here for murder, double murder. In fact, he has 2 life sentences. And when he first came into the system, early in his incarceration, he was raped by some other inmates. And for a while, he, had to live with the struggle of that, not understanding why somebody would do him like that. But that's something that happens in prison. It's unfortunate. But that's part of what shaped him. He's one of those guys that he likes to get along with people, real kind-hearted, will give you anything that he has. If you don't go to the commissary, he'll split his commissary with you. And when he first came into the system, his family didn't have a lot of money, so he did like most people, he lived off the land. But as his time went on, and I met him back then. I've known him for 20 plus years. I knew him when all of the nonsense that was going on with him was happening. So I know this guy. And now his family, 20 plus years later, his family is well off. They've worked hard and they really provide for him. Now, he's in the cell with a guy that came into the system in his mid-20s for murder, and he has the same sentence, a life sentence, a 51-year life sentence. Both of them do. In fact, Billy has 2 of them running wild. The other guy, he has 1. We'll call him Craig. Let's just say Craig and Billy. So Craig, I've only known him 7, maybe 10 years. So I'm not as close to him as I am to Billy. And they're cellmates. And Billy's family, wait a minute, let me tell you a little bit more about Craig. Craig, he's well liked on the compound. Everybody thinks that he's a nice guy. He presents himself to be. He doesn't act arrogant outside the cell. He doesn't act like he doesn't care about people. He talks about the Most High a lot. He shares stories of hope. He does everything he can to try to encourage people to do the right thing. In fact, he's never even had a write-up since he's been in the system. So on the face, he seems to be the model inmate. Billy, on the other hand, he's had a couple of write-ups, but this guy he's one of those guys that, because he came into the system so young, his development is not where it should be. He acts as though even though he's in his 40s now, he acts as though he's probably, in his mid-20s. And everybody knows it. So these guys have been cellies for years, a lot of years. Over 10, if I'm not mistaken. So when I got to, talking to Billy about what was going on, because he brought it to me because we've known each other for so long, he started telling me these things that were going on inside the cell. How his cellmate wouldn't even talk to him in the cell, and if he did talk to him, it was abusive. Telling him what to do and yelling at him all the time and treating him like he didn't matter. But outside the cell, Craig presented himself to everybody else like he's just this stand-up guy, cares about people. But I noticed how he would always complain to me about Billy, saying that Billy wasn't doing this and Billy didn't do that. And I'm like, no, I know him. Now, I started to understand after a while what was going on. And when Billy came to me, he told me, he said, look, he said, I think it's time for me to move out, find somewhere else to go. And I said, why is that? He said, well, because Craig, he seems to act like he doesn't want me in there. He talks bad to me. I said, is he beating you up or anything? He was like, no. I said, is he taking advantage of you in any other kind of way? He was like, no. He said he just doesn't talk to me. Anytime I try to talk to him, he acts like he don't want to hear it. He's just mean to me. I was like, I get that. So knowing his sister and his family, how they take care of Craig and Billy, I asked him, does your family know? Have you told them how he treats you? And he said, no, it would crush them. Now, let me put that into context for you a little bit. Craig's family, when they buy him a clothing package, they buy Billy a clothing package. When they buy Craig a food package, they buy Billy a food package. Any assistance, financial assistance that they can give Billy, they do it. Not to pay him. That's not what it is, because they have welcomed him into their family. He's been in the cell with Craig for so many years that, and Billy's home situation is not like, well, Craig's home situation is not like Billy's. So they want to help him as much as they can. In it, they buy him books to read, help him with all kinds of things financially. I mean, really take care of him. So when Billy said to me that he hasn't told his family, I said, why not? He said, well, because it would crush them. And I said, but do you understand that by them not knowing that you're being mistreated in this way, when they find out, and they're going to find out one way or the other, they're going to be hurt even more because you didn't feel that you could come to them and tell them. There's no way that they would want you to go through what you're going through, and especially if they knew that they had something to do with it. They wouldn't want that. They would want you to tell them. And I started to realize that, Billy was embarrassed about it. He didn't want to tell them what was going on because even though he acts like he's in his early 20s, his understanding of the world, and keep in mind, he came in here really literally like months after he turned 18. Months after he turned 18. So his understanding of the world and people and things in it is like arrested. You know what I mean? He doesn't get it. And he wants to try to handle things as a man. He wants to try to handle things the way he's been taught to handle them in prison. Suck it up. It's okay, this and that. So he thinks that the best solution for him is just to move out and not to let his family know. And I said, so when you move out, are you going to tell them that you live in another cell? And he was like, yes. And then I said, are you going to tell them the true reason that you moved out? And he paused. And I knew he was trying to figure out something to say. He likes to rationalize stuff to the point where it doesn't make any sense at all. And I said, you better not lie to your sister. You better not lie to them. And he said, no, I'm not going to lie to her. I've never lied to her. I'm not going to do that. I said, but if you don't tell them, you're lying by omission. Because if you move out and they continue to take care of him as if he's the brother, as if he's a part of your family, then what message are you sending him? You're telling him that, one, you're scared of him, two, you're okay with it, three, that no matter what you do to me, my family's still going to take care of you. That doesn't make any sense. And it started to make me think about people on the streets, whether it be male or female, that are in abusive relationships. The psychological hold that the abuser has on them is it's hard to describe. It's hard to uh, explain to people that haven't been in a situation like that. Um, and in here, it's on a different level. And I did an episode about domestic violence in prison. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out on my podcast. And again, like I say, in prison, it's a totally different dynamic because there is no domestic shelter that you can go to. There is no way to get away from the violence that you might be suffering, whether it be mental or physical abuse. You go to the administration and it's going to be dealt with in a way that's going to make it worse for you because they're going to come and do something, believe that. But when they do that, everybody's going to know your business. It's not discreet. It's not discreet at all. And so he thinks the best thing to do is to quietly move out and be done with it. I just think that's a mistake. And I think that it's going to create more problems for him. And I told him that. He should tell his sister what's going on. Well, first I said, do you want me to talk to him? And first he said yes, and then he said no. And I understand why. He doesn't want me to talk to him because he thinks that might make it worse. He doesn't want me to talk to him because he doesn't want Craig to know that I know that how he acts outside the cell and how he acts inside the cell is two different faces. And that might make it worse for him in the cell. So I told him, I said, look, what I'm going to do, I said, I'm going to give it some time, and I'm going to go talk to Craig for you and see what's really going on. Maybe he needs to be made aware of what's going on because there are some things going on with Craig. You know, his mother died. He doesn't have the type of family structure that a lot of people do where he can get some help. And he probably feels like he's all alone and he's taking it out on the person that's closest to him. And but to me, that's a cry for help. But even if you're hurting and out of fear or pain or whatever the case may be, you don't have the right to abuse somebody. But again, when you're caught in that vicious cycle of dealing with multiple traumas at the same time, you lash out. And you usually lash out at the person or people that are closest to you. So I'm going to give it some time, and then I'm going to go talk to Craig myself and see if I can mediate this thing and get them on a level where if they do have to part ways, that it'll be done in a way that both of them can deal with. Because I'm afraid that if Billy does move out, he's going to, Craig, he's going to lash out in some kind of way. Because think about that. If Billy moves out, it's going to shatter the image that Craig has put out there, right? So I know a lot of people in prison that have killed people because that person had a secret, had information about them, whether it be how they acted, how they presented themselves in public, whatever the case may be, and that person was about to expose them for the fraud that they are, and to keep that secret, they killed them. So I got to thinking about this situation. I'm not saying it's on that level yet, but you never know. You just never know in here. So I don't want it to get to that point. I don't want Billy to make a decision without thinking it through and make that move and then leave. Because when you get a cell change in here, just a normal cell change, you fill out a paper. First you ask the people that run the unit. They'll tell you they'll ask you what cell do you want to go to. Is the person in that cell in agreement with you moving in with them, so on and so forth. And you fill out the paperwork and you turn that paperwork in, and you may get moved that day. It may take a week. But if he doesn't get moved that day, immediately, then he's going to have to stay in that cell, and then who knows what trauma or who knows what that's going to trigger in Craig to make him try to, you know what I'm saying, do something to convince Billy to stay. And if Billy decides not to stay, he might hurt him trying to protect his image. So I'm thinking about all of that at the same time. So that's just one of those situations that we deal with in here. And I just wanted to share that with you because I'm really struggling about what to do with this situation. I'm back and forth on it. So I'm asking you, tell me what I should do. Should I intercede in this situation on behalf of my friend Billy? Or should I just mind my business? Again, don't get it twisted. The way we deal with stuff in here, the way we have to deal with stuff in here is different than the way you would have to deal with it out there. There is no discretion. There is no safe house for Billy to go to. There is no discreet way in which the administration deals with situations like this. So keep that in mind when you hit me up in my comment section, whatnot, giving me advice on what to do about this situation, because this is a real situation that's going on right now. And I'm trying to figure out what I should do about it. I hope that you have been informed by this episode. It's real, y'all. The things that go on in here is real. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.